Hi, and welcome back to the IAMT podcast. Now, this is a great opportunity for me because not only have I got an industry titan, I also a very good friend. So, Anna Lockwood is head of media and sports for Telstra. So, if you could just explain for maybe there's one person who doesn't know who you are. So, if you could just say what you do and what Telstra do as well.
Sure. Thank you, Matt. Yes, I work for Telstra, which is an Australian telecommunications firm, but we do have a global presence, and I lead the media and sport vertical in Telstra International. So I live in Australia, but the big domestic business is led by a different team, and I lead the vertical for everything that we do outside of Australia.
Yeah, and when you say you live in Brisbane, I'd imagine you spend some time there because you travel more than anybody I know. I don't know how you deal with the time zones that you go through all the time. So, I mean, we could talk about anything as we often do, but what I want to do today is start to look at sports and the technology, how the technology is evolving, what's good, what's not, what's hype. And I think one of the big things that we've often spoke about is, what is game day today? I'm quite old, and I used to go and game day was sit down, watch the telly, or go and watch it. And if you didn't want to know the results, you could watch the highlights. And all you had to do was not read the newspaper or watch the news. So, how has that evolved? Do you see in terms of your interaction with game day, if you like?
Yeah, no, I think game day has really expanded to be beyond, just the broadcast window or just beyond the entry gate or exit gate of a stadium. It's an experience that lasts well before, during, and after an event or a match. And, for us, we also do a lot of work with tournaments or multi-day events, so then it becomes even a more important exercise to figure out, okay, we're going to have a 2-week tournament or a 3-week mega event. And what is the work that's done before, during, and after to both memorialize or make memorable those moments, but then also monetize those moments. So the game or the event is no longer just that that one element.
It's interesting because we talk about when we're talking about this, it doesn't end and begin at the gate. Well, in fact, a lot of people don't get to the gate. You have a look, in the UK, the percentage of people that would A, be able to afford, or B, be able to get tickets for the Premier League. And now we've got the technology to engage them and make them feel more of the club because it's a social thing, it is tribal. So how are you seeing your customers looking at that, fan engagement? How do we keep that relationship as you've got the broadcast, but then how do you expand that world outside of it?
Yeah. And I think, it's definitely making things more personal, making them more relevant, and then making it more, the sort of lifetime of the fan rather than that one interaction. So how do you really get a fan engaged to be, a lifetime fan? And I'll give a local example from Australia with the Australian Open. Again, they do an amazing job of getting people to Melbourne Park and into the venue. And they sell a lot of day tickets, which you may not ever get into one of the actual
we have
venues.
it at Wimbledon.
But there's just this huge pull to be on site, see the activation, see the brand sponsors, watch the matches on local video, and I think they do a really good job of that precinct activation. And then, of course, if you're not in the venue, they also do an amazing job both with their rights holder broadcasters but also with their social team to do those viral moments and to pick up on the the user generated content, and one thing they did this year, which was really good, was that before, in the week before the Australian Open started, they had the 1 point slam, which is you just play 1 point,
Yeah. Oh,
and
cool.
it's celebrities, pros, and amateurs. So it was 48 different people, including the best players of the
Yeah.
Australian Open, just 1 point each. And then the person who wins overall gets $1 million prize,
Oh, wow.
and the person and then they can choose $50,000 going to their club of choice.
Yes.
So, or their tennis club of choice. So it was won this year by an amateur, Jordan Smith, and he walked away with the 1 million.
Wow.
And it was hugely popular on socials. And so before the main event had even started, you had this, I think, quite significant pull through
Yeah.
of people who were already, talking about the AO and talking about the 1 point slam and talking about the players. And that absolutely goes into then, viewership and
Yeah.
engagement during the actual
Yeah.
event.
And now those moments have a, it used to be a replay. If you didn't see the replay, you never saw anything again because it was gone. But they have a lifetime and a growth outside of it now. You touched on like user generated content. And I've been talking to quite a lot of clubs who are now saying that they might have, iPhone on a gimbal in stadiums, even if it's one of their season ticket holders, and they say, can we put some stuff? Because the fan reaction from there, you just don't get. In fact, you occasionally see something on the highlights because something fun happens, and also what they were saying is, even if you're in a crowd at a festival, and you put a big shoulder camera on, people are like, oh, you walk around with a phone, they're like, hey, because they're so used to it. And seeing that coming into sport again, bringing the community together in those viral moments. Um, have you seen anything? Because we see a lot of broadcast technology here, and sometimes it's a bit broad. You don't get a lot of, this is sports. Understandably, you don't want to just put all your eggs in sport. But have you seen anything that's significantly different from last year at NAB?
I think one thing I can mention is there's a lot more focus on virtual advertising this year. That's an
Yeah.
area that seems to have really exploded over the last 12 months. And we work with a company called Unique Feed that's based in Switzerland. And they do, creating ads in spaces or places where there isn't any
Yeah.
logo already. So just creating advertising in a arena or venue
Yeah.
which is against a grass court or a wall that isn't utilized, or a building which
Yeah.
they're driving by. And then they also do insertion of ads to replace maybe what's on
Yeah.
a billboard or what's in an in venue uh, you know digital
Yeah.
enhanced dashboard or billboard. And we've had so many conversations on the show floor this year about virtual advertising,
Yeah.
many more than we had last year. And I think it's really driven by that need to find new revenue streams, find new ways to monetize a feed.
Yeah.
And I think just the revenue acceleration of virtual advertising has meant that there's
Yeah.
a lot of interest in it from a wide variety of broadcasters, leagues, rights owners.
Yeah, and there's so much. You've got the advertising budget. There's so much now for them to look at, and ITV in the UK did quite an interesting thing when the Six Nations rugby was on. Is they just cut it in half and did half advertising, half in a timeout, not timeout obviously, but when you're getting ready for a scrum, rugby has a load of stoppages, and I just thought that's simple. And a couple of my friends went, "Oh, that's annoying." And I went, "But it's not an ad, and also it's free." I knew we got the license fee, but it was a public service broadcaster. Um, Well, one thing that and we've touched on it. Are you seeing more of a pull from your customers on how they enhance stadium comms? Because you're in it's there seems to be a separation of Wi-Fi, private, public. What do we do? And I don't know, because you do more than just broadcast as Telstra. If you're getting any pull from
Yeah.
stadium owners.
I think that stadium connectivity has gone well beyond, stadium Wi-Fi at the
Yeah.
moment, and a lot of the conversation is around segmentation. So to make sure that the fan experience and the fan ability to you know have connectivity
Yeah.
is of course important, and that that doesn't go away.
Yeah.
But also production operations, data collection, and
Yeah.
and data usage. So how do you
Security, I guess, and
security
point of sale.
Yeah.
Some people can't even sell stuff in
Exactly.
stands.
So how do you make sure that your connectivity into and in the stadium can manage all these different requirements that are growing exponentially? And I think where stadiums are most successful is when that infrastructure just sort of works seamlessly in the background, and you have, enough bandwidth and connectivity for all these different use cases. They're not contested.
Yeah,
They're not
yeah.
fighting with each other. Um, and when we go to uh, a major venue, often there is great connectivity already. But often what we get asked to do is, a event that's happening where there may not be stadium connectivity.
Yeah.
It could be, in
Yeah.
in a marketplace, or it could
Yeah.
be in a town center, and it could be temporary.
Yeah.
So how then do you create a environment where you're meeting the production needs, the broadcast needs, the fan experience needs, through the connectivity
Yeah.
provisions. And in Australia, Telstra has an offering called Telstra Dynamic Connect, which
Oh,
is
cool.
based on our 5G
Yeah.
network. And that is indeed used for scale in major stadiums, but it's also used for big events where they know
Yeah.
there's going to be a massive crowd. And it's also used in more remote areas where you need to bring in a temporary pop-up broadcast environment.
We'll go on chatting and for ages, but we're going to be back later on, and I want to say thank you as always. A great insight. So we'll see you later.